Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk. Of course, this is the show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. And I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. See what's coming at you. And today, we're going to talk about something that a lot of people already talk about. It's a thing that's going on. It's a thing that's going to be a subject of conversation till the start of the season and maybe even through the season. Hopefully not. But we're going to talk about the Southern University quarterback situation and what needs to be done by whoever is put in that position, or who is the guy for that spot. I'm going to give my thoughts on the whole situation. But before we do that, you can check out those socials on the screen. Facebook is SWAC Talk, Instagram SWAC Talk, Twitter SWAC Talk 76. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're making that march to 1K. It's going very well. So if you already subscribed, then thank you. If not, then hit that subscription button and keep on rocking with us. We got a lot more things coming at you. We got a SWAC Smoke episode coming on Thursday, live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna drop another edition of SWAC Talk probably tomorrow. And then one on Sunday. We got our 100th episode of SWAC Smoke coming up in like 2 weeks. So don't miss that. That's gonna be big for sure. And a lot of other things coming at you. So hit that subscription button and that notification bell so you can know what's going on SWAC Talk and SWAC Smoke. You don't miss anything. All right, so let's go ahead and jump directly into this, man. We're not gonna prolong this because this is not gonna be a long thing. This is not my official preview. I have my official 12-team preview starting in the beginning of July, so don't miss that as well. But I wanted to talk about not only did I want to talk about the quarterback situation at Southern and how jumbled it is, but I wanted to also look at the fact that this offense has the potential to still be good. Obviously, a lot of people say quarterback play wasn't that good. I'm in that mix last season. So with that being said, a guy who can at minimum match those numbers, the offense should still be very, very good. If you just to look at some of the things that this offense did, and of course they had their 2 blowout games. We'll take those out. Other than that, I'm not going to remove them, but the team did get shut out twice. And other than that, their lowest point total on the season was 16, which was a loss to FAMU. They only scored below 20 points in their losses. The SWAC championship game they scored 24, but in the other 4 losses they scored below 20 points. Other than that, the lowest point total in a win was 21 against Alcorn and also 27 against Valley. Other than that, the offense scored points in SWAC play: 59 against Pine Bluff, 45 against Prairie View, 27, like I said, against Valley, 34 against Grambling. So the potential is there for offense to be potent. The run game is gonna still be solid. You have a lot of guys coming back in the run game. You have Carl Ligon, who was the second leading rusher as a freshman. Gerard Sims, who was basically the leading rusher before injury. Kendrick Grimes is also back. And then you add to that mix Gary Qualls from Alabama A&M, who's a nice all-around back. And C.J. Russell, who was one of my favorite backs at Grambling, who through injury and everything didn't get a lot of time recently. And Braylon Morgan, who's another all-purpose type of guy. So you have like 6 guys who can run the ball if in rotation. Now, most of the quarterbacks that Southern has on the roster are at least decent runners. I don't really think anybody is like necessarily a game breaker with their legs, which I don't even think they need to be. Last season, that was a blessing at times, and it was a curse at times. Um, when your leading rusher is your quarterback, that always makes things look a little bit strange. But I think those guys are not going to have to tote the load as much because there's a bevy of guys who can run the ball out the backfield, and that's definitely going to help make things easier for those guys. And I keep saying those guys. Who are those guys? Harold Blood, who is who is like the longest tenure as Southern as a quarterback. I mean, he's been there since like 2019, I think. Finally got some action last season. He, came out of the spring as Coach Dooley's number one guy out of the spring, with a caveat that if he had to play a game that Saturday, the Saturday after the spring game, he would go with Blood. Not necessarily, he wasn't necessarily saying that this is the guy that I think is going to start the season. I just feel like he's saying that this is the guy that's going to take the first team reps at the beginning of fall camp, and after that, let the chips fall where they may. Last season, Blood was 11 to 19 for 57%, 220 yards, one touchdown, one interception. Noah Biden is the only other quarterback that I consider a contender in this race that played at Southern last season. He was 3 or 4 for 70 yards and a touchdown. Of course, he played at Grambling in 4 games, threw for about 440 yards and 4 touchdowns. Had a 3-touchdown game against Alabama A&M, so he's capable of making things happen. Still doesn't have a lot of experience, and that's the key to this quarterback room. Dylan Marotra is a transfer from UAB, hadn't played in college. Didn't get any time at UAB before he transferred, but he's a guy who was a winner in high school, led his team to championship game appearances, and I think he can be a contender in this race. And then you have 2 freshmen who are very talented, who really probably could have went anywhere else at this point. You have Xavier T-Set, local kid from Baton Rouge, which to me is going to add an extra weight of pressure coming in. A lot of people are going to want to see him play right away. 6'3" kid, left-handed quarterback, 4-year starter in high school. Is a guy who can run. He's not the greatest runner, but he can run, and he has a really strong arm, and he can fire that ball down the field. And Jalen Woods is a similar type of guy, another guy who was very successful in high school at Woodward Academy in Georgia. A guy who can, he can run and throw. Has great size. I think like 6'3", 200. So both these kids, they come in, with a great track record. They're both 3-star quarterbacks, which if you're into that kind of thing, that's there. That's that. But to me, this job I still think it's a wide open battle. I don't think, at least from the actions of the coaches and everything after the spring game, the fact that they were still offering transfer portal quarterbacks and even had a commit before the kid decommitted and committed to Montana. So you would have had another quarterback in this mix. So I think that they're trying to find guys to still fit. Now at this point, I think this is the group that you have. A lot of talent in that group, but not a lot of experience. I think 3 or 4 starts out of all those guys in college, and those are from Noah Biden. Only 2 guys have played in college in a college actual game. So not a lot of experience, but I think the talent level is there. When you look at who can get the job done, I really feel like any one of these guys can do it. Do you lean on Blood early and see how he does, and then go that way? Do you go with Biden, who can make some throws and is a talented guy in his own right? Do you go with the transfer, Marotra? Or do you go with a freshman? I know some people have said, get a kid to one of the young guys and let them kind of learn on the job. And since, honestly, if you want to be honest, if you want to look at it like last season, Dooley did not pull McCray. So if you play a freshman, will he let him work his way through his mistakes? I think anybody who comes in here is gonna have those mistakes that guys with not a lot of experience make. So to me, any one of the five can get the job done. I'm a strong believer in rewarding a guy who's worked hard and been there and been consistent. And to me, at least going into week one, Harold Blood would be my guy. I don't think he has a huge lead, and I don't believe in just giving a guy the job because he's been there forever. But I do think he has the talent, and he can make. He's been in the fire, just not a lot. Has some really crucial snaps at FAMU, which is important. Um, and he had one snap in the SWAC championship game, which was a disaster. But the offense was a disaster at that point. But he's a guy who I think can get it done if you give him the keys and say this is yours, and we're not gonna mess with it unless you crash. If you swerve a little bit, hey, it's all good. But if you crash, then yes, we're gonna go with somebody else. But I still, like I said, I feel like any one of those guys can do it. I mean, the receiving core is nice. You have a nice mix of size and speed. You have a guy like Cassius Allen, who's a bigger receiver coming back. You have August Pete, who again another big receiver who showed flashes last season. You have Kirkwood, Woodfield. You adding a guy like George Pauls from UT Martin. And you added Jalen Howard from Prairie View, who's a speed guy, deep threat. And your backs can all catch the ball in the backfield. So your weapons are there. The offensive line, has some spots to fill, but they have some guys coming back who played a lot. So the offense has the potential to be good. Now, first couple games are going to be tough because you're facing two teams with very tough defenses. You're facing Alabama State, who's been salty on defense for years. You're facing Jackson State, who, even though they lost a lot of guys, they still have brought in a lot of talented guys. The secondary is going to be very great. The defensive line is going to be a monster. So you're getting whoever starts for Southern is going to be thrown in the fire week one and week two, and then if you look at you look a little bit later, you got FAMU right there. So 3 of your first 5 games are against very, very good defenses. That sets up for a rough start for a young guy. If you can navigate that and find your way through that, then it starts to get a little bit better as you move on down the season. I think if you can make it through those first 5 games at quarterback and not be too battered and not be too shaken confidence wise, then I think you have a guy on your hands because everybody has years left. Harold Blood still has 2 years of eligibility. I mean, he's been there since 2019, but with the COVID year and red shirts, he still has a couple of years left. I think Marocha still has a couple of years left. Biden still has a year or 2 left, and of course, a freshman. So this season can be a building block for next season at quarterback, which hopefully, if a guy takes the reins on his job, then you have a quarterback next season. My biggest concern is, are you gonna lose somebody? No, all of these guys aren't gonna stick around after this season. So who do you lose, and how do you handle that? That's gonna be an issue for later on. But right now, I think going into camp, like I said, I think it's Blood's job to lose. I want to see if the freshman can come in and pick up things right away and put that pressure on. I mean, because if they come in and they look like they're ahead of the game, do you reward them? Either one of them, if they're playing, they're practicing well and they're looking good in scrimmages. Do you give them the reins right away, or do you let Blood play a few games where these guys continue to get those college practice reps, and then you put them in like later in the season. It's gonna be an interesting thing to keep tabs on because the spring game didn't really separate these guys. I think everybody had their ups and downs. The 3 guys who played, they all made plays, they all made mistakes. They missed throws, they made throws, they made some nice runs. Everybody did something. Everybody showed the talent that they have, but they also all showed the lack of experience that they have. And the fact that nobody really just reached out and grabbed that job from somebody else um, is not really concerning, but that's the thing that I look at. I mean, even though he didn't have a great season in the spring game, Bashawn McCray took that job. I mean, he was electric in the spring game. Now, once the season started, things started going a different way. Which a guy who hasn't played a lot, is not the most polished quarterback, is going to make those kind of mistakes. But the offense kind of stymied late in the season, which is what it is. But nobody really took hold of that job at this point, so it continues to be wide open. Who do y'all think is going to be the guy that take the reins at quarterback? I just feel like after a week or two, we need to know. At least for the sake of the team, you don't want to go into the season with guys still battling it out. You need a guy to have control of this job by when September 2nd at 5 p.m. comes. Whoever starts that job should hopefully be the guy that continues through the rest of the season. And you got to go through the ups and downs with them. This is a team. I don't want to just spoil my preview, but this is a team who's probably gonna win. 6, 7, 8 games. So they're gonna be in the mix for the SWAC championship if things continue to go the way they're supposed to go. Best case scenario. All that depends on how the quarterbacks play. I mean, obviously, you have a run game that can carry this team till those guys get acclimated. I don't think they necessarily have to do a lot early, but playing the games that you play early, you're gonna have to make plays. You don't have a Florida Memorial to open up the season. You don't have a Virginia Lynchburg to open up the season. You play your Lincoln in the middle of the season, so you don't have that. Get your feet wet, put up crazy numbers, tight game early. You have to lead this team early. So it's going to be important for coaches to game plan for the guys and get them, things to be successful and ultimately try to win those games. Even though those first two games aren't SWAC games, they're still big games. I mean, Jackson State's still a big game, whether it's a SWAC game or not. Bama State's first game of the season is very important. You don't want to just lose those games because they're not SWAC games. But that's kind of where I stand. I mean, I don't necessarily have 100% certainty say that when September 2nd comes and the Jaguars run on the field, first play of the game, Harold Blood's your starting quarterback. That kind of remains to be seen coming out of the spring. But I do think if he can take a couple of extra steps with leadership and his ability is there. If he can take command of the offense and lead it, and be that guy that leads everything in practice, then he's your guy. If anybody else can come in and make some plays happen, then it's going to be an interesting battle. So I do think it's his job to lose. Will he win it or lose it? That's going to be up to him. And we'll continue to watch this. So this is going to do it for my video. I do think this offense can be good. I mean, like I said, quarterback play wasn't great last season, but the offense had their explosive moments. Like I said, you don't look at Virginia Lynchburg and you don't look at Florida Memorial. That Prairie View game, the offense was very explosive. Pine Bluff, the offense had a huge second quarter. And they burst out there. Valley, they made some big plays. Grambling, they was up and down, but they still made some plays. Of course, your losses were what they were. You can't change that. But there's a lot of ability in the skill positions. Offensive line should be solid, and quarterback is gonna be the thing that all eyes are on. So, like I said before, Southern offense just add quarterback, but who? That remains to be seen. So that's gonna do it for today's show. I thank y'all for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 1K. And we'll catch y'all on another edition of SWAC Talk. And catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.